Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey now, my name is Nick, this is Board Game Brawl, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game that will be coming to Kickstarter very soon. That game is called Gateway Uprising, and it's from Fish Wizard Press, and the world is based on is Gateway from Sean Andrew Murray. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this video, I would encourage you, when the project launches, to go to the official Kickstarter page, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing the project. I'll have a link at the bottom of the screen now, and then at the end of the video, and also down in the description section of the video. Now, this is based, as I said, on the world of Gateway, which is a city where magic has been outlawed. But before that time, it was full of just all these magical creatures, and it was constantly besieged by these evil forces of these monsters called the Drugar. But this Chancellor has sort of put the city on lockdown and has forced wizards to go underground. You and the other players are rebel factions who are trying to retake the city from the Chancellor, but also stave off the Drugar threat. And you're doing this, mechanically speaking, through deck building. You're each trying to build the strongest deck possible using powerful rune stones, and then also trying to dominate different district boards, which will give you special abilities and also represent thematically the districts of the city. Let's go ahead and take a brief look at how the game works with a prototype version of the game. So a lot of what you see may not be in the final version. Then we're going to come back and I'll let you know what I think. Okay, I'm going to give you a brief run through of Gateway Uprising. This is a competitive deck building game. The layout that I have here is for 3 players. You are all rebel factions who are vying for control of the city of Gateway. As you see out here, I have these 6 district boards that you're going to randomly put out. There's 2 other district boards that I did not use. This is what you would use for a 3-player game. And then you're going to denote them with a randomly placed district token, just telling you what number they are. That matters for the event deck, which I'll get back to in a minute. You're also going to populate each of these district boards with a card from the City Guard deck. These are the inherent forces of the Chancellor that you may have to overcome. And just to show you one of those cards real quick, which are going to be very similar to the Monster Horde cards as well. But you have the victory points you get for defeating this card, its attack value, and its defense value. Now, some of them actually have different special abilities as well. For instance, the reason why the Central City here has 2 cards is because I drew a Guard Captain first, which tells you to populate that board with another card, and you have to deal with every force that is on one of those cards. Now, all of these stacks of cards that are up here at the top, well, actually, to clarify, the bottom row of cards are cards that are going to be in every game. You have different types of rune stones, lesser, medium, and greater. Then you have rebels, defenders, merchants, Saloran cards, which are going to be in every game. Then at the top you have the city cards, which is going to vary depending on number of players, and also they're going to be randomly chosen. So actually, for an introductory game here, I have the ones that the rules recommended, but they're you can randomize them either by taking a card from every single deck and then making a randomizer deck, or just getting together with the other players and deciding which decks you want to use. So you'll have those all up here, and I have 10 for a 3-player game. There's actually one other deck of cards here, which is actually for the Fishmancer, because they summon fish creatures, so they have their own little deck of insurgent creatures to worry about. So just to run through the rest of the components, you have the Horde deck and the City Guard deck. These are monsters and, of course, the City Guards, which are going to be coming out because of the event deck. Each player is going to start with 7 merchants, 4 rebels, and then a randomly chosen lesser runestone. By the way, each of the runestone decks are randomized and put face up, so there's actually a variety of different stones in each of those decks. But you'll take that starting deck you have of 12 cards, shuffle it up, draw 6, and leave the rest off to the side. You also have a set of tokens representing your rebel faction. These you're going to use when you are whenever you take over one of the districts. You'll put one of your tokens out, obviously clear of monsters and guards, to show that you now have ownership of it and its special ability. And the last little bit of components here are the victory point tokens in 1, 3s, and 5s, and you have these freeze tokens which are a special ability of one of the cards. Now, the goal of the game is to have the most victory points at the end, and when the end is going to arrive if one of 2 different situations. The first is a bad situation. If every district gets monster cards in it from the Horde deck, then the game is over for all players. Everybody loses because the city has become overrun. But the positive way that the game can end is if you've drawn through every card in the event deck. When that happens, then everyone adds up all the victory points that they have, and whoever has the most is going to be the winner. Now let me just run you through how the turns work, because that's the easiest way to tell you how the game is going to work in general. Well, first off, let me just not assume that people know what a deck building game is. In a deck building game, every player is going to start off with either exactly the same or a very similar starting deck of cards that constitutes your deck. But for the rest of the game, you're going to be drafting new cards into your deck. That's what all of these city cards are, and also the starting cards here. You're going to be taking those cards into your deck, and whenever you have to draw more cards from your deck, but you can't because your deck is empty, you're going to reshuffle your discard pile where those new cards have been going in, and then draw again, which means that eventually you're going to get those newer and better cards into your hand and be able to use them and become that much stronger. And in fact, if you can trash, the terminology in this game is trash, remove from the game your starting cards, that's even better because those cards are vastly inferior to the better cards you're going to be getting, and you want to draw those newer cards faster. That is the essence of a deck building game. Gateway just puts some interesting twists on it. Now, the first thing you do on your turn, you'll decide who's going to go first and then just go in turn order. And at the end of every round is when you get to the event deck. But the first thing you do is play cards from your hands depending on how many power points you have. Now, you automatically start with 1 power point. At the top of every card, there's going to be a symbol, this little diamond symbol at the top, that tells you how many power points it costs you to actually play the card. Now, some cards, like the Merchant, are actually 0, so you can just play them, and the Merchant's going to give you +1 gold, which I'll come back to in a minute. That's for card drafting. But some of the cards are actually going to cost you power points, so you have to decide, since you only start off with 1, how you're going to do that. However, some other cards will actually give you power points and enable you, therefore, to play more cards. So learning how to take advantage of that. So for instance, the Witchmasker, one of the cards that you can purchase and draft into your deck, gives you +2 power as well as +1 gold. So you get everything that's there. And by the way, this is the cost of the card as long as I'm showing that off. So you're going to go ahead and play as many cards as you possibly can from your hands. Now, cards like the Merchant are just going to give you money, and then at the end of your turn, they're going to go into your discard pile. However, anything that is marked as an Insurgent or any rune stones actually get put off to the side, and that constitutes your army. These are the cards. Rune stones you can use at any time that their ability is applicable. So for instance, the gold stone here says you can double your gold this turn, which means you'll probably use it on your turn and use it when you're going to draft cards, but you don't have to use it right away. It can just stay out. The Insurgents, however, in this particular case, the Rebels, essentially any card that has attack and defense, you're going to keep those around when you get to your attack phase in order to attack one of the districts, but we'll get back to that in a second, because the first thing you do is draft a card, which very simply is you're going to take all the gold you've accumulated from all the cards that you've played, and then pick one of the cards out from the stock, any of the basic starter cards or any of the random city cards that we have, and you're going to buy that card if you have enough gold, and you're going to draft it into your deck. So let's take a look at a few of those other cards. You have like really powerful attack cards, like this is 8 gold to buy. The Mobile Wizard Tower gives you 5 attack and 5 defense, although it does cost you a power point to cast, which is something you always have to keep in mind. I already showed you the Witchmasker. Here's the Magic Orb, which actually gives you 1 victory point and a power, which can be very powerful, but of course this is another one of the power cards that costs you 8 gold, so it's not easy to get to. Here's a little bit of a cheaper one, the Blunderbuss Mage, who's a glass cannon. He has 5 attack, but he can't take much in the way of damage. You could always buy more rune stones. Here's one of the medium level rune stones, like the Turnstone. Gain control of another player's militia card that's in play. Militia and Insurgent are kind of used interchangeably in this game. It's just something with the prototype version of the rules. The Ghost Stone here, place all militia from your discard pile into your army and discard them at the end of turn. So you immediately get all of your troops back that have been killed or put into your discard pile for other reasons previously. If you're looking at some of the other cards just in the general stock, you can get a better gold card, a better version of the Merchant, the Soloran cart. And let me just show you one more. Well, I'll show you the Fishmancer, because that's kind of interesting. I already talked about her a little bit. She gives you +1 power and +1 gold, and you can summon a Beardfish, which is that other card that she has, into another target player's discard pile, which is bad, because the Beardfish, all that they do are they're Insurgents that give you 1 defense. So it's not too hard for them to get them out of their deck, and they do provide defense to your opponent, but they're still kind of junk cards. So you're bogging down, and it costs them 1 to play it. So you're kind of bogging down your opponent with these fish, which is kind of funny, actually. You can only draft one card. I should mention this. You can only draft one card normally unless one of the cards that you've played on your turn gives you an additional purchase, an additional draft. But once you get done making your purchase or purchases, as the case may be, then you're going to get into the attacking phase. And this is kind of the heart of the game. You're vying for control of these districts, trying to take out the city guards and horde cards in order to get victory points. And how you're going to do that is with your army using whatever attack cards you've been able to gain during the course of the game, together with any rune stones that you have. And how you're going to do this is, now if it's just now the thing is, other players may control the district you're going for, but normally it's going to be city guards and hordes, at least at the start of the game. So what you're going to do is just look at their attack and defense. You're adding up all of the numbers for each side. So all of your attack cards add up all their attack together and are thrust against all of the defense's defense points, and vice versa. Damage is dealt simultaneously. Now, if you're the attacker and you're attacking one of the districts, your goal is to eliminate every single troop or monster or city guard that is defending that district. And if you're able to do that, even if you've lost every single one of your guys because of the damage they've dealt back to you, forcing you to discard all of your cards, you still get to, first off, if it's a guard or a horde card, you're going to take the victory point tokens, but then you're going to be able to put out your control token, and now you have that district. And each district has a different special ability. Central City gives you a victory point every round. You can use it you can use these abilities during your deployment phase. The Canal City cards cost you 1 less to purchase. The Fort City deal 2 damage to 1 target. Harbor Town, trash a card, which is remove it from the game, which is, remember, a good thing for a deck builder. The Gardens gives you an additional card to draw. You're usually drawing 6 cards. That would let you draw 7. Smoketown, 1 free runestone costing up to 3 gold. So these are really powerful abilities, and you want to gain control of them, as well as get victory points just for clearing monsters and city guards out. But remember that your opponents may have districts that you want. They may have done the same thing you did on a previous turn, and you're like, you know what? Now this player says, I want that district. And now it comes to a fight. You have to use whatever forces you have in play against whatever forces they're throwing at you. So it behooves you to want to keep as many army units out as you possibly can. The last thing that you do on your turn is cleanup, which is just discarding cards that you've used and moving on. And then when it's the last player's turn in a round, then you're going to draw cards from the event deck. And the event deck is built layers level 1, 2, and 3, each set of cards on top of one another, so they get more tough and more stuff comes out as you go further down the deck as you escalate in power as well. Here's an example of a level 1 card. 1 city guard is deployed to District 1, so you look at where the 1 token is, and another city guard comes out there. But it might be monsters as well. And the interesting thing here, by the way, let me show you some of the monster cards, just because it's interesting to show off some of the artwork in the game as well. There's pretty much set up just like any of the other attacking cards in the game. Attack, defense, and victory points. There's a Drugar Brute, Drugar Soldier, a Rabid Behemoth, a Beast Tank, all these like crazy and sometimes really, really powerful monsters that you might have to deal with, as well as the city guard cards as well. But the interesting bit here is that if event cards throw city guards or horde cards into a district that is controlled by one of the players, a fight happens right away. So you have to deal with that right then and there in order to defend your district. So you have to worry about the other players, but you also have to worry about what the event cards are going to possibly do to you. And this is how the game is going to go. You're going to go through each round. You're going to try to get as many victory points as you can by cleaning out the dregs from all the districts, whatever they might be, including the other players. You're going to try to use the special abilities of those districts, draft bigger and better cards into your deck. Some of them will also give you victory points, and try to run through the entire event deck and come out on top as far as victory points go at the end of that, or have the entire city get taken over by monsters. That's a possibility too, but that's not good for anybody. Now, let's get to my final thoughts. One of the things that was most evident to me as I played through Gateway Uprising and as I did the overview was just how steeped in the lore of the original source material it was. This world of Gateway from Sean Andrew Murray. From the artwork, which even on its own was really beautiful artwork, but is really faithful to the source material as well, to the little bits of theme that are present throughout the entire game. From the rune stones and the Drugar to the trying to vie for control of this city and wrest it away from the Chancellor, all these different district boards that you're trying to take over with your rebel faction. All of these little bits are really going to bring this world to life, and I think that if you're already a fan of Gateway, or if you just like high fantasy in general, you're gonna find something to like here. You're like halfway there already. Now, as it turns out, the rest of the game is very interesting as well as far as the game mechanisms. There are a lot of different deck builders out there, and for sure Gateway Uprising has some, just at a baseline, has some common elements together with those. But there's a lot of interesting twists that Uprising puts on that formula. First and foremost, the idea of going after these different district boards where you gain special abilities, but only if you can hold on to it and not have it wrested away by one of the other factions. And also, you're going to have to deal with the insurgents and the Drugar that are already there, but you also get a powerful ability for having done so, which could even be victory points. And that's an interesting thing as well, how you're getting victory points over time. It's not just the cards that you take into your deck, it's trying to use different special abilities to gain victory point markers as well. The idea of putting these rune stones in play and using them when you can and when it's going to be best for you. These are all unique things that I really don't see in a lot of other deck building games or games in general, and I think it could be just a great, despite all this complexity though, it's still a great accessible game because it's easy to learn. You can really get dragged in by the theme, and really helps you when you're attached to the theme, you really appreciate the game and its mechanisms that much more, and it becomes that much easier to learn. And I think that that's where Gateway Uprising sits, where you can be someone of a varying skill level regarding board and card games and still be able to get into the game. And so in that regard, it's going to appeal to a wide variety of gamers. And if you're one of those people that's interested in the game, I would encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page when it launches. When it does, I'm going to have a link at the bottom of the screen, and then down in the description section of the video, you can go to the Kickstarter project page, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing the project. That is Gateway Uprising from Fish Wizard Press. My name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day and in every way. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.